Oh, it's the pre-show. So when we do the pods live, I guess it doesn't go live on YouTube, but people can like filter in before it goes live. And the first two comments are, "I am waiting," and "Get it together, CJ." It's not even CJ's fault.
I think it's CJ's fault.
It's not his fault at all. CJ was here. You weren't here.
I was watching the game. Came right when it ended. I peed. I rammed half a chicken sandwich in my mouth. And I came right here.
Here we are. We'll be live in about 20 seconds. You got any jokes? You hear anything? Any jokes today?
Oh, jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Just one-liners. I'm full of them. I got a ton of them. A lot of, somebody walks into
a bar,
their ex-wife or something, and that is,
"Take my wife, please."
Yeah.
Old ball and chain.
Yeah, you go into that, and that's just crazy.
Yeah.
Your ex-wife is at the bar.
Yeah. And then he goes, "I'll have a drink," and you go, "That drink's my wife." Oh, shit. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS, and brought to you by Seat Geek. Get $20 off your first order with promo code RTRS. Body Bio, better health through supplements. I think that's their thing. I wrote it off the top of my head. Get 20% off your order. Bodybio.com with code RTRS20. Kornblau and Kornblau, the official law firm of The Process and the official sponsor of the Corner 3 newsletter, which will come out on Thursday. Corner 3 newsletter with Zoe. That is Stateside Vodka. On the show today, we've had 8 years of insanity, and somehow this week it got even crazier. And by the way, the fucking season started, and the Sixers won due to a fourth quarter explosion from our very own Furk Korkmaz, a guy who knows how to handle a trade request that doesn't get granted right away. There's a way to handle it. There's a way not to handle it. Before we get going, the Ricky reprint is going on now. The sale of 6 old classic Ricky shirts. They're on sale now. They will be pre-order for 8 days. I actually didn't put it on our website yet. If you go to the t-shirt store link on our website, it'll take you right there to Crack Bell. 6 shirts, all for pre-order. We screen print them. That's why we do pre-order. It's better quality. So we have Justice Joel, Imagine Joel, Process or Die in a New Color, 1 part Courage, 2 parts Patience, Rebel, Normal Collar, and Process Core 4, all $21.99. Get them now. And also, before we get going, I mentioned Stateside Urban Craft Vodka. So I'm up here in North Jersey, where Stateside's not all over the place. And I got this app. I downloaded this app. They're not paying us at all, called Drizzly. And they bring you liquor. And I got Stateside. I was out of Stateside. Here we go. There's no gluten in it. It's fucking kosher. It's filtered 7 times. It's made in Philly. StatesideVodka.com. You got to be 21 to drink it. Without any further ado, the war on drugs.
Lying in my bed, a creature void of form, been so afraid of everything, I need a chance to be reborn.
That is the war on drugs. I Don't Live Here Anymore, from their new album, I Don't Live Here Anymore, out on October 29th. We're using War on Drugs for intro and outro music until that album comes out. Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who is not here to babysit. That is Mike Levin.
Here we go.
Another season.
One down, 81 in playoffs remaining. What a time, man. What a time.
God willing, 81 in playoffs.
And what? Look, we're not the only team that's got weird shit going on before the season starts. I really appreciated Marvin Bagley's agent taking to Twitter to release a statement as himself under company letterhead to say that the Kings rotations are bullshit if Marvin Bagley's not in them. I think that's great. So many agents do that through reporters and stuff, and he's like, I'm saying it like myself. I could do this. Here we go. Stamp approval. And
Didn't we have somebody whose agent did that publicly over the last year or two? If somebody in the comments, so we're doing this live on YouTube, live on Twitter. The night ones will do that. If you can remember what Sixers player's agent did that. I can't remember. The Apple Podcast 5-star review of the pod. We're at 2,933. When we get to 3,000, I'll read all of them. This one comes from Andreas Athens from Greece. Celtics fan, it says, nothing soothes me more than listening to the Right to Ricky Sanchez pod after an ugly Sixers loss. I hate the Sixers, and I love it when the Celtics beat them, and this is one of my favorite podcasts. I used to only listen when they lost in the playoffs, but since the Hawks series, I haven't lost an episode, especially because of this current drama. Mike is so funny. There we go. So we'll talk about the other stuff that happened this week. We should start off on a good fucking note and talk about the win over the Pelicans, which felt like Mike, can I be honest with you? I'll be honest with you. I'm sitting there watching it like the middle of the third quarter, and it's tied-ish, and I'm like, I can't believe we're gonna have to watch 82 games of basketball again to get before the playoffs. And after watching the Bucks the night before, who looked like they could win 70 games and just go fo through the playoffs, I'm like, I can't believe this is. I'm doing this. Why are we doing this? And then Furk gets hot in the fourth quarter, and I'm like, that's why we're doing it. Because when Furk gets hot in the fourth quarter and hits a bunch of threes, it's fucking awesome. And it was a good time. And it was, I'm proud of Furk. I'm proud of the second unit with terrible fucking Andre Drummond walking around with one pant leg and what the fuck he's doing. It was a nice little win, after
a shooting sleeve is one thing, but a shooting pant is interesting for Drummond. Very
What's
odd.
he doing?
CJ put it on the screen, but it was Matisse's agent about the Rising Stars game.
Oh, right. Yep.
The assistant coaches was very solid.
Right. It was so good.
It's always great to see Korkmaz get hot.
Yes.
Really great to see Korkmaz get hot.
Yes.
There was a 5-minute stretch there. I would say like late third, early fourth, or maybe just early fourth, where I think that was the hottest any Sixer has been since Iverson. Just like in a stretch. I've never seen anything like it. It was unbelievable. He had 3 threes in a row, on all different kinds of looks. One was off the dribble, one was off the catch, one was the classic Korkmaz slip screen, pump fake, defender just gets up in the air, Korkmaz little sidestep and hits it. Seemingly hits it every time, which I love. And then the next play, he hits 3 in a row. Next play is a pick and roll that he runs with Drummond rolling. Drummond draws the weak side defender, and Korkmaz finds a pretty nice whip pass to George Niang in the corner, who hit the 3. It was just like a really nice. And then the next possession, Korkmaz doesn't need much to be confident, and came down very confident and hit another. And then the bench goes nuts, and that stretch allowed them not to put Embiid back in the game. And Embiid obviously was had a weird knee thing, which it wouldn't be a season if we didn't start it up like that.
Yep.
And then a couple minutes later, tried to dunk off of a Matisse pass from 18 feet out. Transition opportunity, could go get a layup. There's defenders coming over, and Korkmaz decides I'm gonna dunk from the foul line right here. He didn't do it, but he got fouled. That's fine. But it's great, and he's excellent.
Go ahead. Well, I was gonna say the thing when Korkmaz gets hot is then we start seeing all the other Korkmaz shit, like the All-Star game passes and the confidence as a ball handler, and we get real Euro Kork. We get true Euro Kork.
Yeah, I mean he is a fine secondary ball handler without Shake in there, and obviously without Ben, they are just down to Maxey as far as real point guards go, and even Maxey is not that traditional of a point guard, but he can handle and he's fast enough to get by people. Korkmaz has a good handle, can definitely pass, makes the right passes, but just gets rattled by ball pressure. Just doesn't like to have his space crowded. But he's definitely improved his game, and Doc and the team trusts him to run the offense more than most, and his 3 is good, and he can make those passes. It's just a matter of if he's got enough to keep the handle up. But great game from Korkmaz, unbelievable. He was had 18 points in the fourth with 5 on 5 shots, just ridiculous. Very ridiculous. And
a
nice to win. Nice to win on game one.
Yeah, because I feel like it settles everything down a little bit for at least a little bit here. And you have to wonder how those threes got created on the court without anybody, creating them. You wonder how that happened. Maxey starts at point guard. That question with there was a little bit of a question with Shake, but then Shake gets hurt. Maxey, it was sort of, for my eyes, the story of two halves, because he was pretty tentative with the jumper in the first half, as, by the way, Seth was a little bit too. Mm-hmm. But Maxey, I feel like, really eased into the game as the game went along, and really started to find himself, and will always look like the first guard off the bench. Not always. Right now, even when he's playing well, he plays like first guard off the bench. But I felt like as the game came to him a little bit, and as the game wore on, he looked better and better. Just didn't think as much. Just sort of let it fly.
Yeah, Doc before the game gave him what feels like, at least from quotes, like conflicting advice when he went. He's like, I just want to see him just play. Just go out there, just play, don't think. And it's like, well, you told him to be Rondo. Like, that's different. That's a different vibe from what he does. I thought Maxey was great. He's way more comfortable right now shooting off the dribble than off the catch. Yeah. I think something about when you're not a natural shooter, someone closing out hard on you when the ball's not there yet, like as you're waiting for the ball to get there, and seeing someone close out, I think just naturally, you're as a guy who likes to have the ball in his hands, I feel like naturally you're just like, well, I'm driving. If he's here, I'm driving as soon as the ball gets here. But off the dribble, he's comfortable because he's like, okay, I'm in control here. Guy goes behind the screen on a pick and roll. I'm gonna let it fly. I'd like to see him rip it more quickly off the catch, but 2 for 3 on threes. Look good. I mean, just look good. Had his floater back. He has so much nice touch just within like 12 to 15 feet. It just seems like his ball wants to go in. When it lands on the rims softly, it feels like it's going in. He's good. He's really good. A lot is on his plate this season. He's going to struggle. He's going to, be lost at times probably, but from who he was coming in as a rookie to now, and the team trusting him and depending on him, he's really good. I think it was Newbeck that made this point on Twitter, but when Maxey was running the second unit, when Isaiah Joe went down, and because the second unit really struggled at times creating offense because there's no point guard out there until Korkmaz got hot. Then Maxey was like, I'm allowed to beat the guy again. I don't have to like pass it to Tobias and then stand, which might be an argument for the kind of the thing that we are generally against, which is starting Shake when he's healthy and allowing Maxey to play more minutes, but coming off the bench just to allow Maxey to be with the second unit guys so he can run the offense, run pick and roll, and do slips with Korkmaz and all that stuff, and Shake can just like get them in order and stand there. I don't know if that's right or not. It's just an argument for it tonight because Maxey did look so much more comfortable with the second unit as he had a little more freedom. But he's dope. He's fun to watch. He got to the rim a lot. Got fouled a little bit, but still hadn't earned those calls yet. And I'm waiting for the time that he does.
Well, the other thing that happens with the second unit is they should at least have fewer post-ups, which means fewer catch and shoots, and Drummond is certainly a more willing pick and roll player, which if Maxey is going to be able to do anything on pick and roll, like he's probably not going to come off a pick and shoot, or he's not going to do that as much. So I think Drummond's we'll get to Drummond in a second, but Drummond's probably a little more natural for him to play with, or plays into what his current strengths are more than Embiid, even though Embiid's so much better, obviously.
Yeah, I think that's right. Right. He's a 20-year-old kid. He's 20 points on 14 shots, 7 boards, 5 assists, like plus 23 led the team. Like he's just joy out there. And I think even when he struggles, I think he just makes some stuff happen and guys like playing with him. And it's a ray of sunshine on whatever cloudy ass day this team has been sucked into for the last 8 years.
Mike, events
more than 8 years.
More than 8 years. 100 years.
We've been doing this podcast but like, yes, as long as I've been alive.
The events are happening again. As we saw a basketball game, crowd is full. There's concerts, all that. You got to get tickets to these things. You can't just show up without a ticket. The only place that you need to go to get tickets is Seat Geek, this app. Now, how long is it going to take me to learn to not that you can't see it when I do it this way on the YouTube? Anyway, Seat Geek is what you want to do. You want to be in the building. I was looking, Tool is touring again in 2022. They're playing the Wells Fargo Center on February 20th.
What? The people are dying to see Tool.
Yeah, they don't sell out in 4 seconds anywhere they play or anything. It's really just Wilco, Mike. Toy. It's just fucking Wilco and Chance the Rapper. There's the only concerts that sell out.
It's just funny that the first thing you could think of is Tool.
It's not the first thing I think of. I'm the only one that talks during the commercials, so I gotta do a different one every time. What event should I look up?
We love Tool.
What event should I look up, Mike?
The Sixers basketball team.
I can't do that one because they have a different ticket thing.
Anybody, the Eagles.
Okay, so
the Union.
I can't. Right. So Tool is playing February 20th at the Wells Fargo Center. Now, the good thing about SeatGeek is they take all the difficulty and frustration and annoyance of buying tickets, and they get rid of it because they take all the tickets from the other sites and they put them all in the app, and they tell you whether it's a good deal or not a good deal. Go ahead, Google buy tickets for any event, and you'll see 10 different places to buy them. All you need is SeatGeek. Tells you if it's a good deal, if it's a great deal, if it's a bad deal. They do it by scoring it 1 to 10. They do it by color coding it, dark green to red. Right here, section 205A, row 13, an amazing deal, a 9.7, $109 each. SeatGeek is the only place you go to buy tickets, whether it's the app or whether it's the website, whether it's comedy, whether it's concerts, whether it's sports. It is SeatGeek. Use the code RTRS. You'll get $20 off your first order. Use the code RTRS. You get $20 off your first order. SeatGeek.com, the SeatGeek app, SeatGeek.com, the SeatGeek app. We haven't talked about Embiid yet, really, at all. He played well. He sort of kept them afloat when offensively they were, it's the same old story as usual, kept them afloat. He was very willing. I think he shot 4 threes in the first quarter. Do I remember that correctly?
3 for the game.
Oh, and were they all in the first quarter, or did he just shoot those 2 that he made in the first quarter? I felt like he was letting it fly in the first quarter, but hit 2 threes, hit 2 out of 3, 22 points, something like that. And he kept them alive just long enough for the Furk hot streak to come. He did grab his ankle at one point. I felt like they were working on it. I think the trainer was working on it. And then he fell and was like grabbing on both knees. So not great for an otherwise good game from Embiid. Like hate when he's grabbing his legs and his ankles and all that kind of shit. But
I think it's huge that he is he looked more comfortable from the 3 than I've seen him ever before. This seems like there's times when he will be open for 3. He's certainly taken more 3s in a game than he took tonight. But there was a real lack of hesitation. There was one that he pulled up off the dribble after bringing the ball down off a rebound, and just Jonas was dropping, and he's like, well, I can hit the shot. I'm wide open. And he did. And then that caused Jonas to really hard close out on a different 3 that Joel pump faked on. Then we get the Joel slow pump fake that he's famous for. And he blew by him and finished at the rim, and that was nice. And so it's just it remains to be seen what the best lineup is for this team going, once we get to the playoffs, as we're far away from that. But the idea that Joel is very comfortable shooting 3s, shooting many 3s per game, not being that conscious of how early in the clock it is or whatever. He's a really good shooter. I trust him to know the situation and everything. And every time he goes up with one, I'm happy with it. He didn't get to the line a ton. I think a guy like Valanciunas is tough for him just because he's so big, but Joel did a pretty decent job on him. And the thing that we've been waiting to see from Joel, especially without Ben, is how much playmaking is Joel going to do with now that we're going to be seeing the Joel and 4 shooters lineups that everybody's been talking about, whether Maxi's out there and he's running a little pick and roll or not, or if it's just Joel and like Seth and Isaiah and Korkmaz and Tobias or Niang or whatever. And he did some of it. He definitely did some of it. Couple kicks to couple swings to the corner, couple moving, just like dribble, passing off the dribble. I'm interested to see it. He had 5 assists tonight. That was cool. Only played 26 minutes. So it's like, it's too early in the season to start counting minutes, but I don't mind it, especially on a night where he was clearly, nursing something. So he's the best. I'm happy he's healthy and there and playing. And they didn't need him that much tonight. And we can get to it, but especially on a night when Andre Drummond, the good of Andre Drummond outweighed the bad of Andre Drummond, even though there was plenty of bad. But it was nice to have the fort held down while Embiid was out, as opposed to fully melting down in like 11 minutes. Now it's helpful that they're playing the Pelicans without Zion, which is they're not a good team, but nice to get a win, nice to get an easy win, nice to get it and beat off the court as much as possible.
Yeah, I agree. I would love for him. It'd be hard for him to play better than he played last year, to be quite honest with you. I was watching I mentioned I was watching the Nets Bucks game, and I'm watching Giannis, and I'm like, holy fuck, man. Like, this guy's better than he was. He's at least like, I think when a player wins a championship like that and sort of gets that monkey off his back, he can be, the confidence of everything can be different. And Giannis is really, really good. And I thought to myself, man, can Embiid be better than he was last season? I don't know. But given all that's happened in the offseason and the sort of challenge that's happened from what's-his-face saying that he doesn't want to play with him anymore, I would love for Embiid to sort of take that a little bit personally. And you mentioned it's too early to count minutes. It's really the beginning of the season when he plays too much. It's always like, I feel like the last 3 or 4 years, I've looked at the minutes after 15 games, and he's leading centers in minutes per game or something. So I don't think it's ever too early for him to only play 26 minutes in a win. You mentioned Drummond. There was more good than bad with Drummond. If they lost, do you think you would have felt that way? Because I felt like, maybe as I'm looking for it, but I felt like all I thought about when I watched Drummond was like, oh my God, you fuck. Like, every time he tried to do so much too much offensively, I wanted to like fucking strangle him.
No, we're definitely both going to be looking for it, like all the time. His skill set is one that I will immediately lose patience with very quickly. His first touch was a behind the back pass out of bounds from 20 feet away. That was tough. That was a tough way to set the tone for the season. Yeah. And then he missed there was one time when he was dribbling in transition and seemingly like doing an okay job of it, and Korkmaz was right there. All he had to do was just like make a regular human pass to Korkmaz, but instead he tried to like drove in too far and like rolled the ball out of bounds. Very, very strange. But I think he's the kind of thing, like, I don't think he's one of the best rebounders in the league. I think he will get some of the most. His per 36 rebounding numbers will be some of the highest in the league. I think he will get a lot of rebounds, but I don't think he's a great rebounder as far as like percentage wise, because I think guys can outjump him and outtime him. I don't think he has like a nose for it in that way. He's just like there a lot. I don't think he's a bad rebounder. I just think his reputation based on like how many rebounds per game he gets is like not actually warranted when he's like going up for contested rebounds with guys. But I thought his effort was good tonight, and I think a lot of complaints in Detroit and then Cleveland. I don't really remember him in LA as much. Like, the effort wasn't the problem so much as like it was just a bad fit with all those other guys in there.
All those other basketball players.
Well, just like lane clogging situation, which would happen here if Ben was there. But was an effort problem a lot in Detroit. We was just like not actually like giving that much of a shit. And obviously they were worse teams, and now he's on a good team and he feels like, okay, my back's up against it. So I saw him like hustle to stop an alley-oop to Hayes in transition. That was really nice, to Jackson Hayes. There were a couple chase down blocks or like recovery blocks that I thought were really nice. I mean, he just fills up a stat sheet because he's long and he makes some things happen. And it is nice I'll keep saying, like, if Dwight only did the Dwight thing, we don't have to keep doing Dwight stuff. Why am I doing it? I'm sorry. But
it's a lot.
Once in a while, when Embiid's not in, and maybe when Tobias isn't in, and like especially ball handlers are getting pressured and stuff, it's nice to be able to dump it into Drummond in the post and say, like, go just like mash meats with another big guy for a second, and hopefully you can either get a foul or magically a bucket. And he had a nice, quick, decisive post up and finish around Valanciunas. And that'll help. That'll help just like keep second units alive, because sometimes there's not like especially with Maxey starting, like there's not a Jordan Clarkson on this team to just like give the ball to and be like, get hot. It takes a lot more effort to like get open looks and get guys in decent position to score and get to the rim and stuff. So once in a while, it's just going to be nice to do that. But tonight it was, and especially with Jackson Hayes on the other end. Jackson Hayes, I think, is good and will be good. But he's just like, Drummond is way too thick for Jackson Hayes to do anything with. And I was very happy with the Andre Drummond performance today. And honestly, like at this stage in the season, not in the playoffs, well, that remains to be seen. But at this stage in the season, like, give me some like bullshit, stupid turnovers. Like keep it interesting. Throw behind the back passes to whoever, because he can make good passes, and he did tonight. There was a really nice pass to Matisse that he made off a Matisse cut. That was a very quick, decisive whip pass. There's a bunch of those kinds of things where he can do it, but then he just gets too confident in himself. He definitely thinks he's a way better passer than he is, and tries to make too much happen. But ultimately, like, worth it tonight.
What are the chances that Danny gets renamed DeAndre? Like,
definitely very high. Very, very
high. Yeah.
I think it's still going to be called the Danny because I think it just sounds nice. But Andre will lead the team in Danny's tonight for the season for sure. Yeah. Speaking of Danny, didn't really get any stats. Just sort of took the night off. I think Ben's absence will hurt him the most. He just, the consistency of Danny being there in the corner all the time, ready for it. And Ben anticipating it, and other guys not necessarily like thinking that many steps ahead, will hurt him, at least statistically and stuff. But I enjoyed his Danny of the game. Drummond gets it for the first play of the game, but his Danny of like, I get a rebound and like I haven't done anything yet. Just like I've been on the court for so long, like what the fuck? I'm just gonna take a pull up in transition. Like I don't care. I'm just doing it. It was very clear that it was gonna happen the whole way down. But he missed it because he doesn't really make those very often. But good for Danny getting a single stat, a missed jumper.
Well, in a win, just out there playing good defense, ready for the corner threes if he needs to shoot them. That's absolutely fine. Speaking of that position, I never look at the box score when we do this right away. Isaiah Joe doesn't seem like he played very much, maybe 8 minutes or something. Am I right in that? But
13.
He looked sort of overmatched in regular season basketball. Not to say he shouldn't play. And, Doc, if you're listening, if you know what podcasts are, maybe a younger person is playing this in the car with you, or they tell you a podcast, you're talking about Andre Drummond. Stop talking about Andre Drummond for a second. Keep playing him, but he did look overmatched, Isaiah Joe, like a little bit in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to me, unsurprising. Like, hey, congrats, you're at an NBA rotation, and also congrats, you're playing some point guard. Like that's pretty tough spot to put him in. There's no like, Korkmaz is good, he's a good passer, but there wasn't anybody like setting up easy looks for him, and so then I think he took it upon himself to like drive too much. Like he's capable of doing it, he has a little bit of a handle, but the shot needs to set up the drive, not the reverse, because he's not good enough and creative enough with the dribble yet to be doing too much. And then he got hurt. He came back in the game at the end, but he like hurt his chin on a weird fall. Just like turn the ball over too much, a little bit lazy stuff. Like he's not going to be a point guard, but he can handle a little bit in a pinch and attack a closeout here and there. And we're going to see that development over the next couple years. But the Sixers and Doc could do him a favor by like making it easier on him early on. Like, honestly, if there's not a point guard, then like Isaiah Joe needs to be in there with Embiid. So sure, that he can just like stand there and create gravity and stuff, rather than like, hey, Isaiah, like it's you and Drummond and Korkmaz go get him, like have at it. And that's a tough spot to put him in. But he always, I love his defensive effort. He drew a charge on a Jackson Hayes roll. He's honestly charge wise like the most to get his nose in there guy since TJ, which I like and respect. I think that's what he saw as his way to get regular minutes is being playable defensively. And I believe in Isaiah Joe as a rotation player. He definitely looked overmatched tonight, but I think that was mostly because of the lack of a point guard playing with him.
Yeah, it was just an observation that's what he looked like, but I think he'll be fine. And he's after you said, not that I think he's going to be Devin Booker, but after you said it, when I look at him shoot, I'm like, like he kind of almost shoots like Devin Booker a little bit.
There it is. He believes.
I promise we're going to talk about the other stuff that happened this week at practice. We will finish up the game as well. Before we do, Body Bio is a trusted sponsor. Look, your immune system is super healthy. I'm going to talk about 2 things that Body Bio has to help out your immune system. And look, these things, I got an email once about, well, you can't do this all with supplements. These things are in addition to doing the right things. You do have to eat right. You do have to sleep. You do have to drink enough water, all those things. But I want to talk about 2 things. E-Lite that Body Bio makes and liposomal vitamin C. So Body Bio is a local supplement company. They're family-owned, family-operated. Local, family-owned, family-operated. You're like, do I want that as a supplement company? Of course you do, because it means they can change formulas quickly. They can pivot quickly. They're not some big, giant company. They're a smart, smaller company. So E-Lite keeps you hydrated. Well, what it is all electrolytes. You just take a cap of it. You put it in whatever you drink twice a day. It keeps you hydrated. That's important for your immune system. It was important for me. I got cramps all the time. There's no sugar in it, no added colors, no added flavors, no artificial sweeteners, nothing. E-Lite. And the other thing is liposomal vitamin C. Vitamin C is really important for your immune system. You can't take those other supplements because you end up pissing them all out because they're water soluble. Liposomal vitamin C is a special formulation of vitamin C that doesn't release until it gets in your cells. So when you look at the milligram thing, it might be the same as the other vitamin C that you take, but you're absorbing more of it. Body Bio is a great company. We're proud to have them as a sponsor. Use code RTRS20 at bodybio.com and you will get 20% off your entire order. Anything. E-Lite, liposomal vitamin C, Calm, butyrate, whatever you get at Body Bio. Go to bodybio.com, use code RTRS20 for 20% off your order. Niang, do you have any Niang? I think is he the last guy? Have we talked about
we haven't talked about Tobias, but we can go to Niang.
Right.
I love George Niang, man. Like he's just so good. He just does everything that you want him to do. Shot looks great. He's easily the most, may have outstripped Seth of like, if nobody's around him, the shot is going in guy on the team. He just rules. 11 points on 5 shots. He's so much better than Mike Scott. Love Mike Scott. Adore Mike Scott. Mike Scott better for
us.
Probably better on a microphone and probably better in a parking lot.
Looks better in a hockey jersey.
Looks way better in a hockey jersey. But George Niang is a better player at this point in his career. Mm-hmm. Better defender, even though he's slow, still moves his feet well, gets his hands in there. Had a really nice block on a Trey Murphy drive, and then same possession hit a 3 off the catch on the other end. Had a nice pass to Korkmaz on a back cut. He did a little push shot in the lane on a little floater. That was the only 2 that he took. That went in. That's like the middle distance thing that some guys can't do. Like Mike Scott used to be able to do that kind of thing, but then over the last year or 2, stopped being able to for some reason. And every time Mike was open and from 16 feet out, he seemed very confused and very uncertain. Whereas Niang just has a little bit more ball skills and got to those places and knew what he was doing with it. He didn't really get to do it in Utah at all because they were even more regimented of you stand there, you take threes or you pass. But he was great. He's awesome. Big fan. Guys definitely like playing with him. I think he's going to shoot 45% from 3 this year. I love him. He's awesome. Tobias
felt like an uneven game. I almost couldn't even get a read on it. You mentioned him. I hadn't even mentioned him. It seemed like a normal Seth game. What was your Tobias?
Yeah, I think a very regular Tobias game. My first thought was that especially without Ben out there and Tobias gets to be like the full-time 4. It was really when with Joel spacing, like Tobias post-ups are way less aggravating. Whereas before it's like kind of clunky and everyone's standing there nearby. Now there's a little bit more space around it. He has too much dribbling in the half court. A couple times there were a lot of just him like over dribbling and trying to do too much. But when we get in a transition, then it's like he's going downhill. He's decisive. He's pushing. His thickness is like a weapon rather than prohibitive from him like getting to spots. He can just like straight line drive. I thought that was nice. I thought he rebounded well. Finished a lot of possessions with defensive rebounding, which they're going to need without Ben. Obviously, Ben is a great rebounder in there as well. So I thought it was a totally fine Tobias game. Very forgettable. Like the classic, like 20 and 12, like just professional Tobias game. Only took 2 threes. Would like more. We're going to keep doing this. But he got fouled a couple times. He was physical. It was a totally fine and forgettable and average Tobias game. And Seth, I agree, just was very composed. Seth's just like, he's just always composed. He's such a helpful regular season player. Obviously, his defense, and he was great offensively in the playoffs, but like really, really weakness, obviously, as on the defensive end in the playoffs. But in the regular season, like never seems to force it. Really controlled ball handling, gets to his spots, doesn't seem rattled, even though he isn't that fast or that physical. Like he can just sort of get to his spots and slow himself down so he can take a very like balanced shot, whether it's a 3 or a runner or whatever it is, or a little fadeaway, which he did off the over his right shoulder going to his left. He never forces it. Sometimes you want him to force it a little bit. Like he's obviously one of the best shooters in the league. So like force it. We could take more of those, but 3 threes in 28 minutes is fewer than you'd want, but he said that's what he does. You accept him for who he is. And he's really good at it. It's just, that's the most you're going to get.
He had that one in the first quarter where he should have shot it and he got spooked and like went up and he had the travel. Like he tried to do, and that it was such a perfect encapsulation of the one that you want him to shoot was that one, was that
for
one.
sure. So, and you want him to be just like, like be a little brother. Like every little brother that I've ever met has been like hoisting from like 28 feet out. And because they're like, I'm not tall enough to be able to like get in close. And he doesn't have that. He wants to be pretty close to tippy toes in the line and like wide open. Whereas like my nephew Austin is like, give me a breath of daylight and I'm hoisting from 26. Matisse, we haven't talked about, just a very Matisse type game, missed that 3. I really, there's no player maybe in my life that I ever feel more like begging a shot to go in than when Matisse takes it. It's not even like he's missed a bunch in a row or something. It's like the first one I'm like, please God, like every time it's just a pained begging for him to become a like regular, like average 3-point shooter. But he had 4 steals in like 27 minutes. Like he's in a block on an Ingram jumper, which was dope. I thought he played, it's his defense, right? He played 4 steals and a block in that amount, in any amount of time is crazy, but he's going to do it a lot. But also like, I thought he arranged his body in a way sometimes that allowed Ingram to get by him too easily. Once on a post up that let him get into a very easy dunk, Ingram. So I think that we're still in like a on ball Matisse. Like I really I want him to get better at like absorbing contact and like staying in front of his guy and not gambling too much on ball, not just assuming, okay, this guy's going to get by me and then I'm going to poke it out from behind. And then off ball is when I would love to see him like take those chances and stuff and anticipate and all those things. But like, especially against the best player, just like keep him in front of you and make it difficult. You can't give up easy stuff. And sometimes Matisse does because he's thinking too much about that steal. But yeah, like to see like that cut off the Drummond pass. Want to see more of that, especially without Ben in there clogging the lane. Matisse cutting will be something I really want to see a lot more of.
Now, before we get to our update on Simmo the Savage for this week, and CJ, people have been asking for timestamps. I feel like this particular pod, we need a timestamp for when we talk about Simmo the Savage, because we are going to do it. Before we do, the YouTube comment of the week comes from Strops. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, Rice Ricky Sanchez. Comes from Strops. The 2 new segments we need: Neighbor Kevin's Gardening Hour and What's Going On in CJ's Friend Group. I feel like I've seen enough pictures on Twitter to where I am genuinely curious about CJ's friend group. Mike, are you maybe if things get slow in the teens of the games, can we do a CJ friend group segment, do you think?
Yeah, if CJ friend group brings enough interesting things to the table, I'm happy to talk about it.
Okay, all right. So he reports, shows up, goes to practice, and there are pictures online of practice that, like, there are enough of them where it's not just somebody took a still and was like, oh, look, he's not engaged. Like, there were enough photos, and whether or not he had the cell phone in his pocket, the fact that we all believed it was possible that he was practicing with a cell phone in his pocket said enough.
Did they say that it wasn't?
So Mark Stein said that he put his practice jersey in his pocket.
All right, I did see that.
Now, when you look at the pictures,
practice jerseys don't like light up like it's a screen, though. Generally,
yes, but
at
also
least the practice jerseys I've worn aren't like a sort of like billboard on the street that like changes, rotates different stuff. So I'm surprised by that kind of practice jersey, but sure.
If you really Zapruder it, the screen size looks a little small to be an iPhone or something. But again, why is your practice jersey in your pocket? Sure. You know, whatever. And then there's the video of him. They do the all hands in, the break, and he's standing in the back, doesn't do it, and then walks out. And then there's reports, of course, that he practiced to the side. Embiid said he didn't talk to him. You know, most of the quotes were pretty innocuous, but also not super welcoming, just whatever. So then day 2 is the day he's supposed to talk to the media. And
well, they said day 1, I think Doc tried to make it into a joke. Obviously, I'm sure Doc thinks he's very funny. But they did like a welcome to the team as if he's like a new player.
Oh, right.
The way they did for like Niang and Drummond or whatever. I'm sure that went over really well. I'm sure it was all handled very perfectly by everybody.
And Chris mentioned in the comments here, he was also wearing sweatpants where like I don't know if he normally wears sweatpants in practice, but it didn't look like he might have had smoker's arms in practice. All right, whatever. So the second day is the day that he is supposed to talk to the media. Now, truth be told, I did not believe he was ever going to talk to the media. And I want to introduce my conspiracy theory at some point, but I'm sitting watching it on Twitter. There's a thing going on in New York called Ad Week that I was on a panel for, and I had to sit on this panel. All this is going on in the 1 hour before the panel, and I'm just like watching my phone. And I said to somebody, he's not going to talk to the press. And he said, why? And I was like, well, he's not even talking to Embiid. You think he's going to talk to my dad? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like he hasn't engaged with anybody at any point, and just the odds of him sitting there and talking to the press and taking all these questions seemed unrealistic to me. But the press release comes out that he's been suspended because of conduct detrimental to the team. The stories start coming out that Doc told him to get into a defensive drill, and then he refused, and Doc told him again, and then they sent him home without pay, whatever. And then there's the famous fucking quote. And it really ended up justifying that email that we got sent. It was the verbiage. So Embiid says, I don't care about that man. And people are debating whether there's a comma after that. But we did get that email last week of the person that was sitting next to the bench, and Embiid was saying, I don't talk to that man. And like anyone who thinks he was saying, I don't care about that man, I think you're wrong. Like, I think he was saying, I don't care about that man. And if you didn't think
the
it was
difference at this point is pretty negligible.
Yeah, right. All right. Before we get into this, can I introduce my conspiracy theory to you, and you tell me whether you think it's possible at all?
Sure.
we have this situation where there's not much anybody can do to change his value aside from, him getting on the court and playing really well. And I don't think anyone, whether it's the team, if this conspiracy theory is true, he doesn't want to do it. His agency doesn't want to do it. The team doesn't think he's going to do it. We have this situation where the team can't look like they're just letting him stay home and paying him or whatever. The agency and he can't look like he's like giving in. So on some level, they agree he's going to report. We're going to send him home. He's not going to have to talk to the media. He's not going to have to play in a game. The team doesn't look like they let him do whatever he wants. The team stood up to the player who had 4 years left on his contract. The player didn't have to bow and come in and practice and and everybody, even though everybody still looks bad, nobody looks like they gave in. And and eventually they're just going to send him home, maybe with pay, and they'll eventually trade him when they trade him. But I think there's a possibility that the agency and the team are in cahoots.
No, I disagree. I think even if it was, I think it would be hey, come in, and then just your conspiracy is basically that they orchestrated this, come in, refuse to do a drill, and we'll suspend you, that kind of thing.
Well, maybe not as specific as refuse to do a drill, but basically.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that that's possible. I think every single person in this situation is either looking too far into the future, or thinking too big picture, as in Daryl, or thinking only what's right in front of their face, which is everybody else. And the idea that they would want him to show up and okay, you don't have to talk to anybody. And then the Sixers want him there for whatever reason. They made the decision that it is more beneficial to his trade value for him to show up and play and risk whatever the fuck is happening now than just pay him to sit at home and go whatever, people will forget about this. And I get why they didn't, and waiting for a better time to trade it. We're going to be close. The trade deadline is between now and the trade deadline is the last time that they can do it. So if it's either they trade him between now and the trade deadline, or we're back again to a year after that. So people are saying oh, let's wait for a better time of year to trade him. It's well, we've had all of the year. We're very close to having the whole year. That is a complete cycle of a season, either during the off season, before the trade deadline. There's really not that many other times. So the Sixers decided, rather partially rightfully so, in the sense of the Hawk series was the nadir of his value. We just got to get him back out there. But as we talked about last time, they didn't come out and say we want to keep him until 3-4 months after, when speculation of how bad it's gone has already taken hold. So now we're here, and it's either the Sixers' decision, because if you're the Sixers, looking at it from the Sixers' decision, they are trying to do, Daryl at least is trying to do the least emotional thing. How Ben feels are his feelings. How Daryl feels is I need to do what is best for the organization from a emotionless standpoint. And his calculus was, we are not getting the value we feel like he deserves at this point in his career with this many years left on his contract. So we need to risk this chaos happening by bringing him here and hoping that let's just say it's 50%. Let's say there's a 50% chance that he boosts his value a little bit and plays a little bit, and it's fine. And then they can trade him from there. And I'm being generous with 50%, by the way.
Yeah.
And then a 50% chance of either what's happening now, or he plays poorly and continues to tank his value, and it never gets better than that. In fact, it probably gets worse. And it's, I mean, like, I don't think there's a right answer, but there's several wrong ones. Like, we're in a place where just everyone continues to make the wrong decision. And now Ben comes in because he wants his money, which he's very much entitled to feel that he wants the money that he contract he signed for. He should have to work at the job to get it. And so he shows up, puts in as much effort as I put in during the month I went to college when I was working at Rita's, and I really didn't give a fuck anymore. And everyone could tell that I didn't really care. And although I was nicer to my coworkers, and he just comes in and he's like pouting. Like, it's very clear. Like, this is straight up pouting. And I don't like infantilizing guys, and I don't like this stuff, but like him coming in and like not talking to other guys and not acknowledging it. Like, that's being a bad coworker. That's being a bad teammate. It's not just Ben Simmons against Josh Harris. If it's Ben Simmons against Josh Harris, I'll side with Ben Simmons all the time. But if it's Ben Simmons against like Joel and Seth and Korkmaz and fucking Aaron Henry, then it's like you're letting these guys down. And he is. And he's being like difficult to be around. Now, like for Ben and for Clutch or whatever, that in their minds is either the best thing for them, like be difficult, do the Jimmy Butler thing in his own way, do the James Harden thing in his own way, and force a trade. But it doesn't. It's also like you're being a dick. Like, you're straight up being a dick to these guys, your peers, and making yourself look worse to fans of not just the Sixers, but to every organization, to other players around the league that are probably thinking like what you're doing is like a very childish thing.
It sucks.
And to other teams that might want to trade for him. There are some reports of like, hey, other teams know that this is still an act, so he gets traded out, whatever. But I'm sure some teams are like, we don't want to deal with that. I'm sure some teams are like, you know what, we're out. If they were on the fence about it before, if he came in and played hard and committed to it, then you know what, we should take the chance because he's that good. Or if he just stayed home and was like, I'll sacrifice 3 months of pay because I'm staying true to my value of not wanting to show up, then maybe they're like, okay, cool, we can do that. But to come in and just be difficult and just be to butt heads with not only the coach, but like not even try to like make it work with the other players who at less than a month ago were saying like, we're going to come out and visit you and try to talk you back into coming here. Like, that sucks. That sucks. That makes you a shitty teammate, a shitty guy, and I think doesn't actually help him get traded any sooner, so much as it just puts a stink on you that might never be able to get taken off.
Honestly, when people bring up like, oh, well, he has like a mental thing or an anxiety thing, or like, it's sort of like an insult to people who are suffering with those things a little bit. And that is not to say that he doesn't have some issue going on, but lots of people who do shitty things have an issue going on, right? Like, to put this in the same bucket as like what happened to Fultz. Fultz was like a sympathetic figure in a lot of ways. Fultz did not tell fans to eat shit. Other people did. But like, Fultz did not tell fans to eat shit. Fultz did not tell his coworkers to eat shit. Like none of that stuff. This guy, for 3 years, anyone who questioned his style of play or his improvement in a certain thing, he would scoff and like brush it. You didn't play in the league and you blah, blah, blah. And like all that. Like, I'm an all-star and yada, yada, yada.
Very, very defensive. Always defensive.
Very defensive and condescending. And then there's the fucking Mr. 170 or whatever it is when he signed. Like, this guy earned this. And again, this is a trade request and a trade demand after his failure. And like after the last 2 months, and you mentioned everybody has done this badly, the last 2 months of like throwing everybody under the bus, including his teammates, including this, and not just owning up to it it's just so bad. But I have one thing. I have a question for you about Morey's place in all of this, because obviously he has not, you mentioned he's thinking too long-term. He's not handling this well. before I do, last sponsor, Kornblau and Kornblau, the official law firm of the process. You should hire Adam Kornblau to sue fucking everybody in this situation. Sue Daryl Morey, sue Josh Harris, sue Simmo the Savage, sue Rich Paul, sue everybody. Kornblau and Kornblau is the official law firm of the Rights Ricky Sanchez podcast. They are the premier boutique personal injury law firm in the Delaware Valley. What does that mean? It means when you call them, you're going to get them. When you call Kornblau and Kornblau, you're going to get a Kornblau. You're not just going to get a referral service. If you're hurt in any way, injured at work, car accident, medical malpractice, slip and fall, medical malpractice, they have some of the biggest results in Southeastern PA, 40 years, been in business. Kornblau, his mom Kornblau, all the other Kornblaus. So many of our listeners have gone to Adam, have felt so good about it. You don't want some shyster lawyer. You don't want some dickhead. You don't want some old guy you think forgot about you, which is what I had in my personal injury case. You want Kornblau and Kornblau. 215-576-7200. Ask for Adam. Email Kornblau at kornblauandkornblau.com. Kornblau and Kornblau, the official law firm of the process. All right. You were generously saying 50% chance that he comes in, he plays well, yada, yada, yada. I think a 50% chance, and you essentially admitted to this, is an enormous misreading of the situation. And I kept saying there's no way he plays in Philly because the odds of this getting worse if he plays in Philly are much higher than it getting better. Like the odds of him facing this bloodthirsty crowd, shooting free throws, I would bet on him crumbling on that. I think we all would, rather than him persevering through it. If you've already probably overplayed your hand by not trading him at the draft, you've overplayed your hand by not trading him through the free agency period, you've overplayed your hand. Isn't demanding that he come in, knowing his mental situation, knowing how it ended, isn't it just it feels like a heat check for a guy that's not that hot right now. And it feels like a miscalculation of somebody who just has not been here very long and maybe is not that connected or something. Remember when they let Scott Rigo, the equipment guy, go? And I mentioned, this is what happens when you have 5 CEOs in 10 years. And there's nobody here that knows hey, we got to do this right if we do it. It just feels to me like Daryl Morey making this decision was a very, I haven't really been here that long move, or a playing Russian roulette kind of move. It just seemed like a really bad idea to me. And I understand, I'm sorry, I understand you can't just let him stay home and pay him. It sets a bad precedent, which is why I was struggling for the conspiracy theory. But also demanding that he come in, I didn't see any way it was going to work out, It just seems like such a miscalculation by him, So I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think the core sin was during the summer. I get that everyone's on vacation or doing other stuff with the draft or whatever it is, but kind of letting just the public perception and letting the wound fester as it was. If they had a meeting I guess they did in Chicago, but they didn't talk to the public about it. If they had talked and was hey, we want you here, we want to believe in here, and if you want to be traded, we can make that happen, but it's gotta happen during the season after we can get a little bit past this Hawks series. And maybe that conversation happened, whatever. It's hard to do. Mm-hmm. Publicly, you're looking at this and just going every decision was made with are the Sixers going to win a championship with this in mind? Which I get and I appreciate. For so long, the Sixers prior to Hinkie were just can we just not be a problem and everybody be chill, and we'll just win 41 games and we'll hire several versions of Tony DeLeo and Rod Thorne and it'll be fine. And now we have a guy in Daryl who is really thinking championship or bust. And I appreciate it and I love it. But in this situation, there's just a little bit too much of that, in the sense that like this is getting worse. Like it's just getting worse, and it just keeps getting worse. And like I get why if you're I don't think I'm like articulating this well, but if you came out of a coma at the beginning of this and going like, hey, Ben wants to be traded, but his value's not high enough, what do you do? And I get why you're like, well, I guess the answer is bring him here so that he can improve his value. But if you were doing that, like fences should have been mended first. The idea that we're already too far gone at this point. So like forcing him in, and maybe you can say that they weren't forcing him in. They were just saying like, we're just following the CBA, and we're not going to, if you're not showing up, then you're not going to get paid. And then he just showed up and whatever. I just think Doc trusts himself to like be a leader of men type coach and like make it work because he's made different personalities work together. And like the honest answer is, Doc, like Ben fucking hates you. Like Ben fucking hates Doc, and he doesn't respect him. He doesn't trust him. He's not going to listen to a single thing he says. He thinks you're full of shit, like all that stuff. So nothing is going to work. I feel like prior to maybe a week or two ago, like Ben and Joel could have been fine and Tobias would have mended fence, whatever. But I really think Doc is the person that Ben respects in the situation the least. And the odds of it going well were already so small. So I don't know if they suspend him for, the one game that they suspended him for, we've just done it. We've done that game. So there's another game on Friday. What's going to happen? Is Ben going to talk to the media at practice tomorrow? Probably not. Like, it's hard to imagine him having that conversation.
You got to send him home. You just got to send him home and say he's home, like the Pelicans did with Anthony Davis, right?
I think that's right. I don't think it's like great. I don't think it's excellent. I don't think it's like what a winning situation it is. But you just need the situation to like stop having bad beats. And every choice that the Sixers and Ben's camp has made have just continued to make both of them look very bad. And you just want to at this point be like, all right, fine. It's not going to happen. He's not going to be on this team. We're going to trade him when we trade him. It sucks. Like, Daryl, I know you're trying to win a championship, but like this, whatever you get out of a Ben Simmons trade is probably not going to be the thing that gets you the championship. I think it could have been if like maybe the Hawks series didn't happen, whatever. And by the way, there are people out there that are still saying like, oh, Joel threw him under the bus.
It's amazing.
Game 7. And it's just factually incorrect. Someone asked him like what happened, and he was like, yeah, it was a turning point when we had an open dunk and we only got 1 point out of it. And like that takes the air out of it. Like in a Game 7 playoff series. Absolutely. But also, there was a whole ass series before that wasn't going well. So Pablo Torre had Ramona Shelburne on his podcast, ESPN Daily. And there was a clip from it where Ramona said he owned his mistakes after the game. And then after that did everything wrong. And I was like, owned his mistakes? Like, I don't remember that. And I was talking to Pablo about it. And Pablo sent me this article from right after the game where this is before Embiid and Doc spoke. Yeah. Ben talks to the press and goes, I didn't shoot well from the line this series. Offensively, I wasn't there. I didn't do enough for my teammates. There's a lot of things I need to work on.
But he also did
the how many assists did I have and what did Trae Young shoot? Yes.
Yeah.
But so when Pablo brought that, I went to I haven't looked at like Ben's stats from that series because I'm emotionally scarred from it.
Yeah.
And there were 3 pretty good games in there, and then 3 god awful games in there. The 3 good games were 7 for 7 from the field, 17, 10, and 4, and 3 for 10 from the line. Obviously, as foul shooting was an issue even in the Wizards series. And then 7 of 11 for 18 and 7, which 18, 7, and 4, and then 5 for 10 for 11, 12, and 9, which is like fine, not great for Ben, but fine at least. And then the bad games were 3 shots, 4 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. And then the last 3 games of the series, which was 2 for 4, 2 for 6, 2 for 4, with some other numbers, but like really just not looking at the basket. And it was games 5 and 6 that it became very, very clear where Ben shot 4 for 14 from the line in game 5. And then game 6 where he did a similar amount of nothing and gave up the ball and just stood there. Even in a win, where it just became very clear that like he was not engaged. I mean, I'm using the term that the Sixers and everybody has used at practice, but like he was not locked in, especially in the offensive end. Some good defense, but not as good as he's used to, and definitely almost nothing on the offensive end. And so like the series was not a full 0, as I, at least in my mind, offensively has sort of like remembered it to be. But it's still like those games 5 and 6 were really, really bad. And then bad game 7, like it wasn't just one pass. People like now the pass is the iconic moment. Like that one pass that with Trae Young there, he beats Gallinari in the post, and Trae Young's right there, and he decides to pass it up to Matisse. But like it wasn't just that. Like now history is going to remember that moment because that's an iconic picture and all that stuff. And people are like shrinking Trae Young on Twitter to make it jokes, which is I would imagine funny for someone who's not living and dying on this. But like there were several more moments before then, and it was clear that he wasn't there. And there's a difference between being diplomatic as a player and being like, we support him, he's a teammate, he's one of us, like we like him, and just like fully lying. And for Joel, after a heartbreaking series, when he's now lost in the second round several straight years, although without Ben in the bubble was a first round exit and it sucked. Obviously the Kawhi shot, like heartbreaking series. This was supposed to be the year that they got there. This was supposed to be it. It lined up really well. And for Joel after the game to be like, yeah, that was kind of the turning point, without saying like Ben fucking sucks and I don't want to play with him anymore and like all that stuff. He just said that was a turning point. Like Doc is an idiot and says Doc stuff and said Ben can't be a championship point guard. He shouldn't say that as a coach. Absolutely. But like the idea that Embiid has ever like driven a bus over Ben, he's just like, you have to let him be like a little bit honest. And the little bit honest read of this is, yeah, that was a turning point. What would help later on in the offseason? What would help if Ben showed up? Like you've seen the videos, not like that's not him rolling over Simmons and saying like he's a gutless coward piece of shit. Like he's being a little bit honest, and we have to not every time that I'm going to do a Windhorst aggregator thing, but like every time everyone's like Embiid savages Simmons, like I thought we want guys to be like a little bit honest, and he's being a little bit on the level of like what it is. He's like, I still think he's really great at all these things, but those don't get covered as much. Those don't get covered as like Embiid says nice thing about Simmons. Anyway, it all just blew out of proportion. And like now it's been like too far gone for a long time. And Daryl and the Sixers tried, and maybe who knows what role Josh Harris has had in this, to be like, I'm not giving him my money to like stay home. Who knows?
Well, and I think there's a league implication.
And you're right. There is a league implication where they don't want someone with 4 years left on their contract to be able to be like, just keep paying me to stay home.
Right.
So it all sucks. There were many moments that I wish people could take back. Now it just seems like everyone just needs to go their separate ways, and whatever you can get for Ben, either now or in December when guys become more tradable, or at the trade deadline, whatever it is, great. But I don't think he can show up to any more practices, to any games, to being on the bench. Like, we're trying to do a team here. Like, and the team is like pretty good. I think that they're probably worse this season for a number of reasons. Even though their depth is significantly better. But Embiid's in his prime, and continuing to try to like bring this fucking circus around could really poison the well for Embiid with this team for a long time. And that is more than what you get for Simmons has to make them an immediate championship contender, because I think we're past that at this point. More than that, keeping Embiid happy and knowing that you ultimately have his back and are trying to build the best workplace for him and the best team for him eventually. Whether that means like this year we just ride with him and shooters and see how far it takes us, or you try to do a trade now and then a trade at the deadline, whatever it ends up being. And then next year you go in and go like, okay, that last year we lost in the second round again, whatever. Now we're going to try to like, whether it's a Tobias trade or whatever the fuck, any possibility. We got to make sure Embiid is happy because he's an MVP candidate every season. His prime will last for as long as it lasts. And it's got to be here. Otherwise we're fucked in even more ways.
And the last thing I would say is if the game is to wait and see if Lillard or Beal ask out in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks, having Simmons here is not changing the calculus of whether you can get that player or not.
That's right.
Like that's the problem. Like
that's right.
Clutch and the Sixers have to get in a fucking room and say, here's how much we're going to pay you, or here's how we're going to fine you, so the next team can give you the money and no one's going to notice that that's what it's going to be, so we can get through this. Sure. But like, he's not playing in a way that is going to increase his value. You're still going to have to throw in all the picks. It's just like, it's fucking over.
Yeah, for sure. And he's playing basically like just the way he was at LSU, where he didn't really give a fuck about the NCAA, that was fine. But this is a different situation. You are getting paid a ton of money. Your team is counting on you, and now you're not showing up for work. So like, he should be fined for not doing the duties of the job and stuff. Dame a couple of days ago, might have been yesterday,
so he's not leaving.
Said, I'm not leaving Portland. Adversity is going to hit. There's going to be tough times. So if it starts rocky or if it starts out as a struggle, I won't be happy about it. Nobody would, but I'm not going to jump ship and bail out when that happens. So I think, guys lie all the time. There's weird reports out of DC where Montrezl Harrell keeps telling the press, like, yeah, Brad Beal all the time is saying, we're the fucking Washington Wizards, bro. Like, as if it's like he's demeaning them. It's like, man, you could just leave and you wouldn't be the Wizards anymore. But I think to your point, like, if either of those guys ask out, which it doesn't seem like they're going to, at least for a few months, it's not going to make a difference whether Simmons is here or not. In fact, it might make more of a difference and make the Sixers come off as more player friendly if they come off like handling the situation well. And so then like Beal or Lillard can go like, I want to go play there. If they want to go play here, that's going to make more important than a team being, their front offices being like, man, Simmons is looking good in the regular season, which he has looked good in the regular season for his whole career. We've seen that.
Right.
So I think we are at a point, we've been at several points of no return, but even in the world where, to your point, if Beal or Lillard ask out, like, who gives a shit what Simmons is doing? Like, just get him out of here. Yeah, it's. I can't believe he keeps getting this bad. The other day, I said, "Fucking, at least we were past the worst of it." What a moron! Like, so many more things have happened. I really think, like, I said this, and people were like, named other people. It's not close, and I say this is like, it's very funny to me that like I developed a show with him, but like, he's the biggest enemy in Philadelphia sports history. Ben Simmons is 100% going to go down as the biggest enemy in Philadelphia sports history. Worse than JD Drew. Worse than. I mean, if you believe like T.O., worse than McNabb, people have bad feelings about McNabb, worse than, Scott Rowland or.
You mean former Philadelphia athlete?
Yeah. It's not close. It is not close because it has been years of building up to this as people lost faith in him. I obviously believe everyone knows how I feel about Ben as a player. But like for sustained months long crusade against everything in this age, when we hear so many news reports, maybe if this happened in like 1962, like we wouldn't have heard as much about this. And so you'd hear like, oh, he wants to leave and they don't want him to leave. And there's an argument and something like that.
Ben Simmons.
So, but this is going to last forever. And every time that he comes back to Philadelphia, when he's like 36 years old, he's going to get like massively booed. And is what it is. And most of that is on him. Like, straight up, most of that is on him and the decisions that the people around him have made. It didn't have to be this bad. The Sixers have made so many mistakes in this, but so has Ben's camp, whoever. And it just is shocking. It's shocking that the one person I developed a fucking show with is the least liked athlete in Philadelphia sports history. It's very impressive. It is really, really solid.
You got pretty lucky that show didn't get picked up.
I disagree. I think that show got picked up. It would have been the most watched comedy in years. It would have been incredible. I think NBC should feel guilty not picking it up because this would have made it a ridiculously cool season 3. It would have been very funny to do it. They fucked up.
We will be back on Saturday. The Sixers play on Friday night against the Nets. So Saturday, we've mentioned one beer, the Ricky beer with Zach Lowe on it, the double IPA from Four Fingers Brewery in Aston, PA. It's only available there. It comes with this cool can with Zach's drawing from our friend Abby. One beer. I'll be there on Saturday at 1:00 after Bark in the Park. You can get one beer. I'll have some T-shirts there as well. Some old Bark T-shirts and stuff. We're going to finish up raising money for Providence Animal Center. By the way, thank you to everyone who's donated. We're up to $13,050. And the 5K is on Saturday, and the goal is 15,000. There's still time to join. I got plenty of extra T-shirts too. We have a really big team, and your donations though have been appreciated. So I hope to see you on Saturday to get one beer. If you don't need to go then to get it, you can go anytime. So thanks to Four Fingers for making it, and Zach for being so gracious, and thank you to everyone who has donated to our teams, as well as Big Barker and By Nature for buying the T-shirts. Sixers play the Nets on Friday night. Nets didn't look great on last night, but probably will look pretty good against the Sixers. So we'll see what happens.
I'm happy basketball is back.
Yeah,
I'm enjoying it. I really enjoyed the WNBA playoffs, and I'm glad we're just rolling right into the season. Friggin' watching Pacers Hornets in the background while I'm ostensibly at work. Like it's good. Basketball is good.
We're back.
As much as people love the drama, I would like less of the drama. I would like just some regular basketball. I'd like to analyze some, be excited about like Chris Duarte looking good. I thought Kate Scott was good tonight.
Yeah, she was.
Not as excited. I thought she was great. Her and Ala have a fun rapport. Man.
What do you think of Tobias?
I don't love Tobias.
Yeah, she kept calling him Tobias.
Yeah. People in and out of Philadelphia have a weird thing about pronouncing their O's.
Oh, really?
Some people go for
in
it.
Philadelphia, of course.
In Philadelphia, of course, but yeah, people really hit that O hard.
Yeah.
Look, it's going to be a very dramatic season of The Bachelorette, and I'm holding on like a sleeping child holding on to like his teddy or his blankie. I'm holding on to September 11th, 2021, when Keith was the main character of Twitter for two separate reasons. And I'm holding that, and I'm gonna let that be my guiding light all season long. The Sixers are undefeated.
All right.
Normal stuff going forward.
We'll talk to you on Saturday. We're going to leave you with another song from War on Drugs, brand new album, which comes out next week. The 29th. It's called I Don't Live Here Anymore. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah, Lick Face.
But I'm rising.